Good Monday morning. I'm back here at the chapel in the church, and you remember a couple weeks ago when I was talking to you about the letters to the churches and how in that very first chapter in Revelation we find Jesus walking among the church. Well, with one of the churches, he's not there. In fact, it's the last church, the last letter in Revelation chapter 3, and it's the church of Laodicea. And honestly, a lot of theologians describe it as the final church of the final age and what it will look like. In that church, Jesus isn't walking. He is on the outside of the door of the church. And Scripture says this is what he's doing. He's banging. The word is knocking, but in the Greek it actually means incessantly pounding on the door, asking to be invited in. That's a scary letter to get from a church, but it is mighty loving. And do you know what it says after it says he stands at the door knocking, pounding incessantly? It says, if anyone will open the door, I will come in and sup with him. You know, there have been times in my own life when I feel like God's been on the outside of the door, banging incessantly. I spent years living my life that way. And it wasn't until losing my marriage that all of my self-sufficiency began to unravel. You know, the sin of Laodicea was their self-sufficiency. Interesting, if this is the final church of the final age, the self-sufficient church, the self-sufficient man, it's very similar to Genesis 3 when Eve moved towards her self-sufficiency and Eden was lost, that we would see the same kind of spirit of the age at the beginning that we'll see at the end. So what about you? Do you live in a way where you make your own decisions? If there's a big decision to be made, you lean to your own thoughts, your own ways, your own mindset of working it out, figuring it out, making the plan, making it happen? Or do you lean into a quiet trust and ask the Lord what plan he may have, what he may want for you? Self-sufficiency ravaged Laodicea. It left them thinking they had need of nothing. When Jesus looked at them and he said, you don't even know that you're wretched, you're pitiable, you're naked, you're blind, you're poor. We can live in a culture where most of our needs are met and taken care of, and we can forget where the real source of provision comes. We can be inside a church thinking we're doing the work of the Lord, and he's outside banging on the door. The beauty is he loves us enough to pound. He loves us enough to knock. And the other thing that's so beautiful is as soon as our heart opens the door, intimate relationship is restored once again. So I don't know what self-sufficiency you may be leaning into in this season, but I can assure you it's a dangerous place to land, and it's very subtle. It sneaks up on you. And before you know it, you can just be managing your life and your schedule and your day until ultimately you think you are the God of your life. And you're the one that has to make it happen. And God looked at this church and he said, listen, I'm the God of all creation. Nothing's happening separate of me. So, just a thought today on a church that God had intended to walk among, and we find him outside the door. All because of the very subtle sin of self-sufficiency.